Let's turn this into a pen, or actually a pencil.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about.
Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hello and welcome to Wolf Ridge Woodworking. Today we are going to turn this blank that we made, and I'll have a link to where we made the video. We're going to make this into this pen kit. This is from Penn State. It's a gunmetal Vertex click pencil kit. Made it before. It's a nice kit. So let's get started. First thing we need to do is mark the blank to where the tube's going to go. So in looking at this, I do see a lot of the white in there. So I don't think there's a bad end, but I do want to get, if you remember from maybe the other videos, this is like an upturn. So I do want to keep that in there. So I'm just going to pick an end. I guess it doesn't really matter. Let's go with this end. So I'm just going to leave a little bit. Hopefully I can see this. Yeah, I can see that. So now we're going to take it over to the bandsaw and get it cut. Now that we've got the pen blank cut, I have it mounted into my pen jaws. I have a 3/8 inch drill bit mounted here. So we are going to turn this at 500 RPM, take our time and drill it out and make sure that we don't have any blowout. If it does happen to blow out, it's okay because I left a little bit off of the edge to be able to account for that. So now that we've got it tapped, I did notice a challenge, but I think it's going to be okay. If you can see here at the end, right here, where the mold went in, it kind of, I don't know how to say it, but it didn't fill in with resin. I guess that's how you say it. But anyway, so what I want to do again is because when I cut the blank, let me just put it up here, and hopefully you can see. I left some long here. And so that's what I plan on doing, is trying to get it more towards this end. And then this end I'll be able to take over to the sander and get flush. So anyway, so I just want to let you know it's not a big deal, and that's why it's always such a good idea to leave your blanks long, because you can always sand them down. But anyway, enough talking. We're going to glue this in with some medium CA glue. I've got my mat down, so I really like this now that I don't have to use the wax paper. This is a really good, I got this from Woodcraft. I'll put a link for this down in the description if I can remember when I go to edit this video. So anyway, so the tube here is already pre-scuffed, so I don't have to do that. If you do happen to make a kit where the pen blank or the tube is not scuffed, just get some 80 or 150, 120 grit sandpaper, scuff it up before you do this. With the acrylics, I've noticed also that it takes longer for this to dry. So I'm going to probably actually leave this overnight and come back tomorrow. If you're using wood, you probably can come back in about 30 minutes. So anyway, so I'm going to, I like to set up a system. So I'm going to put the glue here and then insert it here and flush that end. I find that if I do that, I always have a good glue up. So I would recommend you getting a system also. But anyway, so just going to apply a liberal amount. It's probably going to get all over the place, but that's okay. And what we're going to do is when we go to insert it, we are going to actually, turn it around so that the glue actually gets really well coated, I should say. So then we're just going to kind of snug that up to the end. I like to wipe the blank off and just check to make sure that it didn't protrude too much. So that's perfect. So I'm just going to set that there, and I'm just going to wipe up the excess glue here. Should have grabbed a bigger towel. But anyway, so we're going to let that dry, like I said, overnight. With the acrylic, I don't like to use the activator because I want this to get a good bond. I left it to dry overnight, so Now what we need to do is we need to square the ends of the blank off. Just, for new pin turners, why you do that is when you assemble the components of the pin, you want to have a really flush connection. So if you can imagine, if you were to do, you had just the slightest angle off and you're putting a flat, surface like that, you may have a gap in between, and you don't want that. So that's why you want to flush this off. So there's a couple of options to do that. One is you've got a barrel trimmer. So this goes into your drill, and it has various changeable inserts so that you can, because what you want is a snug connection in here. So you use the right barrel for the tube that you have in the blank so that it's a flat, flush connection, tight, so that when you go in and say this is going in, it's going to give you that flush 90-degree angle which you want here. So that's one option, and I'll put links in the description to both of these options. This is a different way of doing it. The challenge with this one is that sometimes on some of your delicate materials, it's a bit aggressive, that cutter, you might tear it out if you're not careful. So the other option is to use a sander. So what I've got here is a jig. You interchange the different punches. You have to buy this separately. It doesn't come with the jig. You get the different punches and you put the right punch in according to the size of the pin blank that you're using, or the tube, so that you again have a very flush connection. This gets clamped to the saw guide on your sander, and again you just rotate it until you get the tube to show. So what you want to do is sand it down to the tube. So let's do that. I'm going to use this option on this. So meet me over at the sander. I've got it mounted on the lathe. It is in a mandrel saber. It has the appropriate bushings for this pin kit, and then on either side of that there are two 7mm bushings on either side. I'm going to be turning today's project with Rockler Carbide tools, both a round or a radius square cutter and a round cutter. Being that this is acrylic, I will typically turn acrylic over 2,000 RPM. Sometimes just at higher RPMs allow you to cut it quicker. I'm not sure how this is going to be. I've never turned Alumilite, so we'll have to see how it chips out and make adjustments based upon that. I will be trying the negative rake carbide cutters soon. That's supposed to be absolutely fantastic when it comes to acrylics. So let's get started. As always, we're going to be safe and we're going to use our face shield. So I just wanted to stop for a second and explain something. So what I like to do on my pens at least is, leave them just a little bit thicker in the middle. And once I get to a certain point where I like that, now I just start tapering off the ends so that the ends are flush with the
bushings, because the bushings are the actual size of the components that I'm going to insert into these, and that's why you turn to the bushings. But let me just show you really quickly a sneak preview. This is turning out way better than I originally thought. I am so happy with the way this turned out. So let's just go ahead. We're almost there. Got to be careful here. You don't want to get to the end and make a boo-boo and you don't have enough room to take anything off. So going to take light cuts until I get this down to the bushing, and then we'll take it off the lathe. Well, actually, before we take it off the lathe, we're going to sand it through 12,000 using the micro mesh, and then we're going to apply some plastic polish. But getting ahead of myself, we'll get back to that in a second. It's turned down to the bushings, and now I am going to use, as I said earlier, the micro mesh, and it goes from 1,500 to 12,000 grit. And so I'm going to go through all of these, and in between each one I'm going to wipe it down. It is going to be a wet sand, and I'll wipe it down in between just to get the slurry off. The speed of the lathe is going to be around 1,000 RPM. You don't want it to be too fast. I really am happy with the way it turned out. You can see the pin tube, the brass through there, but you know, the way it shimmers, I think it actually looks good. But if you didn't want that, you could paint it blue, I guess, if you wanted, or you could paint it a white color, a gray, something to kind of hide the tube. But I kind of like the way it's shimmering through the translucent of the blue, and so it's your choice what you want to do. But pretty simple assembly on this particular pin. So the first thing that we have to do is just press in this cap assembly here. Should go pretty quick. Okay, and you always want to, when you're pressing it, make sure that it's going on straight and not sideways. And this is where I was talking about is why you want to flush these ends up that we did in the previous step, is so that there's no gap in there. So now, next thing we need to do, and this is the last of the pressings, is just to press the tip or the cap assembly in place. Okay. All right, I'm just going to put this out of the way over here because we're done with that. So now what we need to do is to, oh, here we go. So to just screw on the tip here. And this is in a gunmetal finish. Actually, you know what? I made a mistake. I think this is, there you go. I think this needs to go in first. So it just screws down in the bottom there. There we go. And that's better. Okay. And then there's your eraser, and then the cap piece just screws on. And there we go. And it's got a really big lead in there. So it's, all in all, I think it's a nice pencil. I was about to say pencil, but this is going to be, I guess, my new shop pencil. If you're seeing this, you made it to the end of the project. And if you're like me, I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. In a previous project, I actually set up the pressure pot and made the blanks, and I will link that right here for you to see if you want to check it out. And I encourage you to leave some comments.
Tell me, what you thought of this. If this is something that you enjoyed, I appreciate you letting me know that. If there's something that you think maybe I could have done a little differently and really improved what I did, leave that too. And also share this with anybody that you think might like it. If this was the type of content that you like, I encourage you to click here to see other videos. If you're new to the channel and you want to see future videos, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button up here and hit the bell so that you're notified when new projects come aboard. And as always, until next time, I wish you and your family a blessed day.